we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Oh, you know what? It might be good if I had the microphone. Yeah. I was playing with it today.
What's up, guys? What's going on? Hope everybody's having a good one. Sorry we're just a touch late. That would be my fault. Life happens no matter how prepared you are. Something always gets thrown at you. We had a lot of good feedback yesterday, and I know that we weren't able to really dig into, especially like the prison aspect of being in addiction and how that all, funneled everything into the creation of TLB, Lifeboat. And I think it's going to be it'll be a really good conversation and really good, if Tommy continues to tell us his story a little bit more in detail. And I definitely think that it's going to help some people understand. And, and I think, Tommy, aren't we talking about doing a show later on, maybe next week or this week sometime, just about prison, in general?
I think that's enough people talked about that. It's probably a good idea. We'll take care of that.
Yeah. So, I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, it'll be, I think it's going to be really, really interesting. And I think Tommy has unique stories anyway. So this is going to be something pretty cool to listen to. I think you guys can learn a lot. I learn every time. I mean, I've heard him tell me his story quite a bit, and I still hear new stuff every time I talk to him. So, I mean, it's really is truly like that. And I would imagine all of our lives are kind of like that if we really scrutinize it, but yours is at a higher level because of what what you've been through and what you've done. People kind of look at it a little bit shocking or whatever it is, but, again, it was just drug driven for the most part, and that's what does it. So we're here to do part 2 of the interview, and, there may be a part 3. Who knows? We don't know yet. So we're just going to roll with it and, and get with it. So how you doing today, Tommy?
I'm doing well. Sorry, I was right as we were as you were hitting live, I knocked over a bottle of water. So that's what I've been doing. If it looks like I just didn't want to leave a puddle on the desk. I apologize for that, people. I think there are parts of the story that are probably interesting to everybody, but my mom, you know what I mean, and family members, because I know that this is tough for them. Understandably. We've talked about this a lot on the Lifeboat, and I think no matter how much you own your past, there's just a human nature thing that when your children make mistakes, you say, "Where did I go wrong?" And I think the truth of the matter is that that's not something that I think it lies at the feet of the people in rehab who almost always try to pin drug addiction on somebody else. They never really want you to take full responsibility. They'll say that they do. And then the next, phrase out of their mouth will be, let's talk about your childhood. Because what they want to do is find something in there that they can pin this on, because the driving force for relapse is often guilt. And, you hear so many people in the lifeboat talk about going through uh, the really deep levels of guilt that they feel for the things that they did in their childhood was better. None of this would happen. Well, you can almost erase all of that. It gives a straw man or a scapegoat that you can put. I don't have that ability. One of the things I really want to sort of hammer home on this more than anything else is that, and I argued with so many counselors about this, but there really isn't anything in my childhood. And I think that the real proof of that is that I'm one of 4 children, and nobody else ended up in prison. Nobody else ended up a criminal. No one else ended up a drug addict. My brother struggled with drinking, but there was really nothing. I sort of broke the mold in my family, and I'm talking about going back generation and generation and generation. I was just, the first real. I don't want to use the word screw up, but I was definitely the first one to make, the kind of mistakes that land you in prison. And when we took off last night, I kind of blew through the prison part. And, one of the reasons is that it's one of the chapters of my life that, is one of the more difficult ones to revisit it. But without a doubt, it's probably one of the most pivotal points in my life. And I think it's probably a life lesson in there that you sort of have to blossom wherever you're planted. And if you find yourself in a situation that isn't ideal, you can lament it and sit and wring your hands and talk about the woe is me thing, or you can just sort of own it and try to make the best out of any situation. And I know I've said this so many times on the lifeboat, but there is a movie called A Bronx Tale, and there's such a great scene in that movie where the story is about a young boy who grows up in a place in New York in the Bronx and sees all these gangsters hanging out. And his dad's a stand-up guy, doesn't do anything wrong, but he starts to hang out with a gangster named Sonny. And at one point he said, Sonny, you're the smartest guy I ever met. And Sonny said, well, if I was smart, I probably wouldn't have wound up in prison. And the kid asks him how he got through that. He said, how did you get through prison? And Sonny says, there's only a handful of things you can do to get through prison. You either lift weights, and work out, you play cards, or you get in trouble. And the kid said, well, which one did you do? And he said, I read books. And that was me. So, but not originally. When I first got to prison, I was still really deeply in the life. And, the shocker was I had been to prison, and I when I finished the story yesterday, I had married my attorney, I got out, and then I got sent back on the gun charge. And when I got to prison the second time, I was expecting to get sent to prison land. You know what I mean? I had finished up the sentence, and I had just had a stroke, and I wasn't even really walking yet. I was really struggling. I was in a wheelchair. They were trying to get me into a walker, but I was really struggling to walk. And they flew us out from Con Air, which is not what you see in the movies, I assure you, but it is called Con Air. And it's basically a 737, like the ones that you fly in, except everybody in there is shackled. You've got handcuffs that are shackled to your waist, and your ankles are, got a chain between them so you can't do any running. And you're on a regular airplane, looks like every other airplane, but you're just everyone's sitting next to you, and every seat is locked up. And so I got to Victorville, California. And for those of you who know, it's often called Victimville. It's one of the worst prisons in America, and just incredibly violent, incredibly racist, just a tough place to do time. And as I got there, everyone was going, oh, Lord, you know what I mean? We're going to Victorville. And everyone was sort of wringing their hands. And I said, well, you guys are. I said, but this is a way station. This is a place you stop when you're getting sent someplace else. I said, I'm probably going to a medical yard because of the condition that I'm in. I'm not too worried about staying here. And And they came over and read the name of 6 people on a bus of 27. They read the name of 6 people who were going to the holdover, meaning they were leaving within the next couple of days. And when I didn't hear my name, I almost had a heart attack. I was like, I think I'm supposed to be on that list. And the guy said, no, trust me, you're not. And I was dumped onto the worst yard in the BOP, the Bureau of Prisons. But for me at the time, the one good thing was in my head was this was a prison yard that you could get all the dope you wanted. I mean, it was easier to get drugs there than it was on the street. On the street, you got to chase down a drug dealer. And in prison, the drug dealers are locked in a room 5 doors down from you. And in a unit that had 128 inmates in it, there were probably 14 or 15 drug dealers. And the crazy thing, people, is that as expensive as the drugs are, you know the markup. So you know that if a woman goes to visiting and she smuggles in a load of heroin, that on the street might have cost her $600 or $700. Inside, it has a street value or a prison yard value of maybe 25 grand. So they're not particularly concerned about fronting it, giving it to you on credit. And their goal is to get you in, sorry, $10,000 to $25,000 in debt as fast as possible. And they're not even going to bat an eyelash while you get there. They're not going to say, hey, you know what, you're getting a little deep, nothing like that. What, you need some more? Here you go. What, you need some more? Here you go. And they just continue to run up that debt and get you deeper and deeper and deeper. And then, when you get to that 25,000 mark or 15,000 or wherever they draw the line, they're going to say, we want to know where your family lives. Basically you're dead, or you're going to find out. And the people from the street could start contacting the people that you love, then saying, the bottom line is so-and-so is going to die, or you're going to start sending us $250 a week. And they figure if they can get 25 or 30 people that are sending them $250 a week, and that really is the business model. As horrible as that sounds, that's the business model. And the trouble is, from the drug dealer standpoint, is you don't know who these people are when you start running up the debt. And sometimes you'll get somebody to 25 grand who doesn't have family. There's just nobody on the street that's going to pay. Or you contact their people and their people go, kill them.
Wow.
Good with me.
That's
kill them.
That is, that's an insane amount of money. I think that is something more than what
it really is. It really is. But then when you start to work it out in your head, I mean, a gram is going for $1,000, and they're $750 to $1,000, and it's $30 on the street. So the numbers are staggering from when you start to hear them, but it's, to the person that's fronting the stuff out, they don't care. And the truth of the matter is that, with the exception of only a handful of them, most of them aren't going to get physical in there, because if they hurt you, you're going to be off the yard and they're never going to recoup their money. But for the people who don't have family that are going to pay, they send somebody to rough them up. They send somebody to beat on them or do whatever's necessary to make them believe that if they don't start coming up with a way to get that money, bad things are going to happen. And I got in there and just blew through a ton of money that I had from the day that I got put in. Every time people sent me money, I saved it, because I knew that I was going to go somewhere where there was going to be drugs. So when people were, eating meals and putting spreads together and all of that, I was just waiting for the day I could buy heroin. I mean, that was my mindset. There was got to be a yard somewhere where I was going to be able to get drugs. And when I got to Victorville, you get anything. I mean, I don't care what your drug was, it was on the yard, and there was plenty of it.
I think that's one of the most shocking things to most people, is the fact
is just how much dope is in there. Yeah. I mean, it really was just astounding. I'll give you an idea. Like when you get there, they bring you in a room and they say, is there any reason you can't be on this yard? Meaning, did you ever rat on anybody, or do you have a sex crime or something where these people are going to kill you as soon as you get on the yard? And they know the answer to the question because it's sitting in a file in front of them. They just want to see, so you say, no, there's no problem, this or that. And the guy looked at my file and he went, oh, heroin, huh? I said, yeah. And he said, are you using right now? He's like, don't lie to me, because we're going to get along a lot better if you don't. And I said, no, I'm not. And he goes, well, you can get it here. He's like, it's everywhere. He said, the unit you're going into is probably the dope unit. He said, the number of people selling drugs in there. He said, when you walk through the front door, you're going to see 15 people in the day room knotted out on heroin. This is the head of security. And he just continued to talk about it. Before I left the room, I swear to you, I'm like itching my arm. You know what I mean? I honestly like was, you know how it is as an addict. Like on the bus there, I'm going, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And then when they opened the doors, I was like, who's got it? It's just I used to lie to myself constantly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the,
I think that's kind of similar to just about anybody's story, really. When you start feeling, you're denying it, but you know what you're going to do when you.
yeah, you try talking yourself into the fact that you're going to, stay good, but you're not. And in your heart of hearts, I think everybody knows that. But I didn't make it to the first night. The guy that lived next door to me was one of the big time guys in the entire prison system. And he walked in and he's like, I can give you $300 on the house. He's like, this one ain't even going to cost you anything. And when he put $300 worth on the table, I went, that's $300.
Wow.
He said, yeah. I'm like, good Lord. And here's the other thing that's insane is that, obviously if you share a needle with somebody in the real world, you're an idiot, right? Because there's no faster way in the world to spread a disease. Diseases that are bloodborne, obviously sharing a syringe is just sharing the blood with whoever, you're hanging out with. And I don't do that. That's, and by this point I wasn't using needles. I was smoking, just across the board. I smoked heroin, and what they put on the table, I could, would have been like 2 deep inhales, and that would have been the end of it for $300. And he said, and I can get you a needle. And he brought in a Bic pen, the clear through Bic pens. And it had a point on it that had come out of a insulin syringe that was melted into the point. And it had a plunger that was basically made out of a piece of shower shoe, right? Cut into a circle with a screw put into it. And that screw went onto a piece of wood that was like a dowel round. And that was and I looked down and went, you got to be kidding. I said, and how many people have used that? He goes, well, it's been here at least a year that I know of. He's like, but the guy only wants $100 for it. I was like, I'm cool. Is there a way I could find some tin foil? He's like, you're going to smoke it? I said, yeah, I'm definitely going to smoke it. And I would smoke it, blow it into a balloon or a bag, and then breathe it back in. Not literally a balloon, but like an expandable glove, one of those rubber gloves, and then breathe it back in, like everything you could do to just maximize the most that you could get out of it. But in a very short period of time, I was doing pretty close to $1,000 a day worth of it in there. And, being big, even with the limp, I was walking with a limp, but I had a cane. I was allowed to carry a wooden cane. And embarrassingly,
you say $1,000 a day. About how many, doses would that give you a day, or how many times would you?
I could smoke 3 times a day on that. So that was like a get up in the morning, smoke once at lunch and once before I went to bed kind of a thing. And on the street, it would probably have been about $35, maybe $40 worth of drugs. But in there, it was $1,000. And the thing is, I was actually getting better deals. Like the guy worked with me because of how much I was buying. But within a couple of weeks, I was in so deep. It was just incredible. And when the guy said to me, he goes, we're going to need the names of your family. We're going to be contacting them. And I just said, you know what? It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. You know what I mean? So do what you do. Come on in with a bunch of guys, kill me, stab me, get me off the yard, whatever. But I am not giving you the name of anybody in my family. Nobody is going to pay you $1. I'm like, it's not going to happen. And over a period of negotiation, he said, well, you can go and lean on this guy. And if this guy starts to pay, 20% of whatever he pays comes off of your bill. And I was just at such a depraved part of my life that I was like, okay, anybody else? Like, can we get 4 or 5 of these guys? And it got to a point where I could basically do the stuff for near nothing.
Now,
and
did they at that point, did they cut you off until you paid? No.
Nope. They never cut me off. They continued. And the other thing that was that, Suboxone had gotten in there too. You could always get Suboxone. And that's what most of the people that didn't have money, believe it or not, they would take an 8 milligram strip of Suboxone and cut it into 32 pieces. And a 32nd of that strip was $10. So they went for about $320 a piece. And that just wouldn't do anything to me. I mean, a full strip of Suboxone doesn't do anything to me. I'm a heroin addict. You know what I mean? So all it would do to me was level me out. And a 32nd of which obviously was not even in the realm of possibility. When I first saw it, like I had to put my reading glasses on. He was like, it's in the paper. I'm like, what the hell am I looking at? I'm like, he's like, the little triangle thing. I said, that is what is $10. He said, yeah. I said, no, there's no way.
Now to
But
compare that to the price on the street, guys, one tab or one strip is about $25
yeah,
versus a box.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then it just marked the markup because once it's contraband. So once it gets in, and it's so creative, all of the different ways that they get it in would just absolutely amaze you. The standard procedure was to take a candy bar and they would razor blade the top and cut out a rectangular part of the candy bar and pull the top off and cut it so that it was just the chocolate piece on and hollow out the inside of the candy bar. And then they would put balloons in there that were, 3 or 4 balloons, one on top of the other to make sure it wouldn't rupture. And they would have, 5, 6, 7 grams lined up in there, 1.5 grams per balloon. And the person would come in with that up their sleeve. Right. So they would get in there and then they would go up to the vending machine and put money in, and a bunch of things fall all at once. And as they reach in, they slide it out, they pull it up and put it up on the counter. Right. And it's sealed, glued back together the whole thing. So the guy would go over and he would eat his meal, and the last thing he would eat was that candy bar, because in 45 minutes, it gets all the way through your system. They wanted to get out, and they would drink shampoo to make themselves throw up while, 20 guys were pacing outside the cell door waiting for him to puke this stuff up so that they can all try to get it. And if he couldn't puke it up, he would be waiting 2 days for it to come out the other side, which is just, if you think about the whole concepts.
If that doesn't shock people to hear that, I don't know what will.
Honestly,
the
level of disgust. I could tell you stories, and maybe I'll do it in the next video, but some of the stories are just so horrific, I can't even explain it. I've walked in where a guy had a piece of 80 grit sandpaper. And if you don't know what 80 grit sandpaper is, it's not fine work. This is like you're taking down things, right? The lower the number, the more more abrasive. So stuff for like polishing a desk or whatever, you might use 220 or 300. This stuff is 80, and they're sharpening a needle on it, right, to stick in their arm. And then literally the guy would take it out of his arm and hand it to the next guy, who would put it into his arm and hand it to the next guy. And I've watched officers walk in while guys were shooting up. Like they didn't care. They honestly just didn't care. And that's the way, especially at that prison, because the guards want to go home.
Well, it's probably
at the end of the.
Yeah, it's probably just one of those things with the guards that they just, they can't fix it. There's nothing they're going to do to fix it. It's going to happen, and I think
they're afraid that they're afraid that if they do something that's going to keep these people from getting their fix, that these people are going to kill them. A lot of these guys are doing life. I mean, they got nothing else to do, for the rest of their time on this planet. So the level of violence is just insane, and the cops allow just about anything to go on. But this continued, and I don't know how you want to look at it, either the best thing or the worst thing that happened was there was a very bad riot at the prison, and the warden, you can actually look this one up, but the warden got cut with what's the equivalent of a carpet knife. So the razors that are double-ended, there's a razor on each side. Someone had taken one of those that they got in Hobbycraft, and they had put it between 2 pieces of wood, glued it, and then put leather and taped it. So it was just a killer, like a straight razor. And this guy he went behind the warden and grabbed him and cut him from his shoulder to his hip. He took 170 staples. And when I got stabbed, I took 5. Right. And it's a good sized scar. You've seen it. This one went from here to here, and it went through a 3-piece suit, but they had to airlift him off the yard. And they brought the guards came in, and we were locked down for, I want to say 2 or 3 months. You got out every 3 days to shower, and that was the only time you got to leave your cell. And you came out 2 at a time. Shower would take all day long to shower the entire unit. Just insane. And people got sick. There was still drugs, but it was really hard to get. You had to make a line and shoot your line from one door to the next while the person sent it down, and you're fishing, hoping that no one tries to grab it on the way. Just really bizarre stuff. But in the process of this happening, the guy that they call the shot caller, right? He's the guy that runs the entire prison. They just got rid of him. And that's standard operating procedure. If there's a riot, they just get rid of all of the people who are basically calling the shots and send them to a different prison.
So they just like turn over the management? Is that how?
Exactly. I mean, you could not word that any better if you thought about it for weeks. They just want to get rid of the current management of the inmate population. And in the process of doing so, these are very organized gangs. And the gangs get together and they have their little meeting. And the word came down that there was a new shot caller. And the new shot caller on the yard was my next door neighbor and basically best friend on the yard. And I walked into his cell and gave me a big hug. And he threw a bag of fentanyl the size of a baseball on the desk, brown powdered fentanyl. And I said, "What is that?" He goes, "Fentanyl." And I said, "What did that cost?" He goes, "That's my cut from the people that smuggled in this weekend." And he would get 20% of everything that came in for being the shot caller. So I didn't have to pay anymore. And it just meant I was getting deeper and deeper and deeper. I don't mean in money, but into now I was basically doing what I was doing on the street. I was doing 1.5 grams to 2 grams of fentanyl a day, between me and another guy. And this isn't car fentanyl. This isn't the stuff that kills you. This is just alpha fentanyl, but really strong stuff. I would be nodding during the day. Like I was messed up, like I would have been, really, really messed up and with nothing to do, no responsibilities. All you had to do is get wasted. And that's what we did. And then one day it was 113 degrees out, right? It was July 26th. I'm sorry, June 26th. And I was on my way to the rec yard on a mission. I was going to pick up a bag for the shot caller. And my job was just to go out there, grab it and bring it back. And I would get probably 1.5 grams for doing it, for smuggling it back into the unit. And as I walked through the metal detector, I was walking in the other direction and a kid I knew him really well, actually, was coming in the other direction. And, he said, "Hey, what's up?" I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And then he proceeded to bury a knife about that deep into me. And I mean, for absolutely no reason. Like we didn't have a beef. There was no problems between us. And as it turns out, he just got the wrong guy. And he even argued with him. He said, "I don't want to do this. This is a friend of mine." But instead of ever uttering my name, the idiot just said, this guy and I are friends. We hang out, blah, blah, blah. They said, "Look, man, you do what you do." He's a gang member. And he hit the wrong guy. And he stabbed somebody outside of his race, which caused, you don't do that. You need permission to do that. And they didn't have it. And it caused a really big hubbub on the yard. And because of it, I was put into solitary confinement. I wouldn't tell them who stabbed me. And the way that the cameras were set up, they watched it go down, but you can't see blood, you can't see a knife. And I kept walking. I don't know if you're probably lucky enough to never have been stabbed, but you don't know that it happened. It's not particularly painful. And at least when it first happens, and there's a cold feeling, like there's a piece of cold steel that just entered the body, but it doesn't hurt. So I walked by, I was like, "What the hell was that?" And I looked down and I could just see it start coming through my fingers. And believe it or not, as hot as it was, I was wearing a hat. So, because it was where I was going to put the dope. So I grabbed the hat and I just put it onto my stomach. And my plan was to go back to the unit and just try to get myself stitched up. I've seen that happen many times in prison, avoid going to, but when I got into the rec center room and looked, the inside stuff was hanging out. You know what I mean? There was fat and other things that had just sort of like pushed itself out through the hole. And
there was no chance you were going back and trying to hide that.
There was no chance whatsoever. And when I pushed a little bit to see, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't really, it was bleeding, but it wasn't leaking the way it should. You know what I mean? I had a big, big cut. So I just pushed on it a little bit. And when I did, the stomach acid, from the stuff from the stomach got into and that's just hydrochloric acid. And when that got into the wound, it was the end of the world. It was the kind of pain where everything goes white and you have to take a knee. And I walked out and there was a kid on the yard that had just got there and he pointed and said, "Oh my God, look at him. And you just don't do that either." And I looked at the kid, I said, run. Like when they get you, they're going to kill you for it. You just did run. And I don't know what happened to him because, I was in a life flight helicopter ride.
I think, what shocks people there, what shocked me is the fact that, something like that happens to you in prison and your first instinct is go back to your unit. Don't go tell on anybody. And I think there's big reasons for that.
Oh yeah, no, you don't tell on anybody. You do, and they they brought me in and they said, Loco is the guy that stabbed you. We got it on tape. I need you to sign a paper. I said, nah, I'm not signing any paper. You know what I mean? And I said, he's like, you're telling me it wasn't Loco? I said, I'm not telling you anything because that's just the rules, right? And he goes, well, we already know it's him. I said, well, then you don't need my help. You know what I mean? Like, if you already know who it is, what do you need me for? And he showed me the video, and for all intents and purposes, it's so fast. It just looks like somebody might have gone by and just smacked you, kind of thing. But the good news is I won the lottery, because I was left in a cell with me and God. There was really nothing else. And, it was 28 days of kicking. I mean, literally, it took 28 days before I got even what you could call a small night's sleep, a few hours. And, I was just in there talking to myself, I was all alone, and I was just praying. And the book cart would come by once a week. Right. So I got stabbed on the 26th, and the book cart was passed around on the 26th. So when I went in there, the guy said to me, I can't get you a book for a week. I also don't have a radio. I don't have anything. So you're just in solitary confinement with nothing to do. And, but in every single room is a Bible. And that was probably the best thing that, could have happened to me, because I started reading it and got to the other side, and then I started reading it again. And when the rest of the books and stuff were brought in, this is where I got into okay, I'm never going to watch television again. I'm never going to, I'm not going to do anything. This is going to be my life. I'm going to get serious about it. And when I hit the next yard, I met Q. And that was, the start of, of basically everything that where we are right now. There was a person working there, and they said to me, you need to get back in school. And I did, started to get my degree. And, I said, I'd like to get a degree in chemical dependency. I find this stuff fascinating. I just read the first book I had ever read on sobriety, and on the what goes on in the brain, and that was not an option. I could get a degree, but I couldn't get it. There's only certain things that you can study while you're in there. So, but this person said, that's what my degree is in. I said, I know. He said, I will bring you in every book that I had to read in order to get this degree. It's not going to help you, but if this is really what you want to do, you can at least study it. You know what I mean? And he did. He would bring them in at about 25 at a time, and I knocked them out. And then Q would give me the books like the Secret and some of the stuff from Paul Coelho, and just books that were really about positive, sort of a changing the mind,
kind of inspirational type of positive.
Yeah, exactly. And then some stuff that was just different. He wanted me to read Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and all of these books. And I just devoured them. Like, I didn't go anywhere near a television set. I was working at a factory in there, a place called Unicor. I was making uniforms for the United States Army. Well, I wasn't, but I was supervising people that made uniforms. I was a quality assurance guy. And and he worked there too. So he would come by during the day and fire questions at me and things from the books that I was working on. And when we were done, we would go back to the unit, and a white guy and a black guy would sit at a table together. And while everybody just stared.
Yeah, that's something you guys, if you haven't caught on to that yet, that ain't something that happens.
It is
you don't
definitely
see white
not something
and black,
that happens.
or white and Mexican, or white and Latino, any of those kinds of things. You don't see that in a prison, guys. It just doesn't happen.
Especially.
And I would ask you too, Tommy. When you go to work like that, is it there in the yard in the prison?
They have here's the crazy thing, right? So there is basically picture about 2 or 3 acres of grass, right? And a basketball court and this and that. That's your prison yard. And it's built with a concrete prison around the outside of it. So the yard, there's no walls, there's no anything, because the prison is between you and the outside. But inside that big, huge, like the hallways, I swear to you, you could get a motorcycle in 5th gear in them, because the hallway, which you never use unless there's a rainstorm or something like that, goes all the way around the outside of the building. Normally, if you have to go from one place to the other, you go out on the yard and take the shortcut, but they don't let you out in the rain. So if it's raining, you take this outside, and the halls go perfectly straight for 300 or 400 yards. And you get around one corner, and where there would be about 5 units is a factory. And inside there was probably 260 guys working on a daily basis. And they basically worked around the clock. I was high dollar. I was a very highly paid employee in that system, and I was making about 42 cents an hour, and It is, isn't it? It really is.
So
It's
I was
slave
muted.
labor.
Sorry. That in itself
No,
was shocking.
it really is. It's astounding how little they pay you, and you literally work around the clock. You know what I mean? Like when we were leaving, there were guys coming in. Like that factory doesn't shut down. It was, and the way they do it just invites violence, because if you take a like a uniform that somebody wears in the army, and there's a guy that puts the pocket on, and there's a guy that does the hems, and there's a guy that puts on the buttons, so it goes in an assembly line, but you're paid by the box. So if there's one guy in that assembly line that's screwing up, you're not getting paid, and they kill him. They bring him in the bathroom and beat him. It's just such a violent and horrendous. And my job is to go up to these guys and go, this work isn't good enough. You're not getting paid on it. Right. And they're all carrying scissors. What could possibly go wrong? And the crazy thing is, honestly, the whole time I was there, I think I was the only QA that didn't get stabbed. I made a point of communicating. Instead of saying I'd watch other guys go, this stuff sucks, you're not getting paid on it. I would go up and say, you know what, I'm new at this. You think this will pass? Because I'll push it through if you want me to. And they'd go, no, man, that ain't going to pass. Give it back to me. I never once said to anybody, this isn't going to go, or you're not, but yeah. So that every day was just about, putting in my 10 hours and then going home and studying about addiction. And that was where really the seed for this. I didn't plan on doing it online. I didn't have any vision of, but I knew that I wanted to do what Q did. You know what I mean? And he said to me, I'm not, this is just a conversation between me and another guy, but he said, you're brighter than most of the people I talk to, and you're articulate. You don't have a problem talking to people, and you sort of have a diplomatic skill. You're the only QA that didn't get stabbed. That says something. And he said, you want to pay this forward, find somebody and do for them what I did for you. Because I said to him, I'll put money on your books. You know what I mean? Like, I'll contact people on the street for you. What do you want me to do for you, man? I will do anything for you. And once a year, I send him money. And a couple of times, like, he'll write me letters and say, don't do this. He's like, I got 25 years in Unicorn. What the hell am I going to do with the money anyway? He just stacks it. But this is his life. He is, and I get it. It didn't make sense to me at the time. It really didn't. But here's a guy that has nothing to live for other than that. He's not going to get out into the real world, but he's affecting the real world. Without Q, there's no lifeboat. Without Q, there's none of this. I'm not sitting here right now if it's not for that guy. I guarantee you I'd already be back in prison. So he really is having a positive effect on the world, and he's doing it every single day. And he doesn't work with 15 people. Like, he has a method, and he picks one person and he works with that person until that person leaves. And then he picks another one. And I said to him one day, I'm like, how many people have you done this with? And he goes, oh, I don't know. I'm like, come on, man. You know. And he's like, he said, honestly, I don't. He said, I never kept track. I said, are you fairly successful? He said, you know what? You never know. Most of them leave and you never hear from them again. I didn't do that.
Yeah, these are the, I think it's like unsung heroes. We talk about, they're saving people one person at a time, and that's what he's doing. And we can't overlook the fact, and that's why Tommy is so adamant about talking about him, because these are the kind of people that are going to help us cure the whole opiate crisis. It's not going to come from the big name, alphabet agencies, some sort of programs and stuff. It's going to be us out here fixing ourselves, is what it is.
True story. And I'll tell you something else. It's I used to be one of those people that said, lock them up and throw away the key. I honestly uttered that phrase so many times in my life. They should just lock that dude up and throw away the key. And, when you get in there and you see what this place does to people, and you see, the inhumanity living right next door to humanity, you see things, you see a kind of love in there that you can't imagine, that you just can't believe, of just kindness from one person to another that I promise you don't see in the real world. And sandwiched between some of the ugliest and just most hateful, horrific stuff. I know I've told the story, but we were on our way to Chow and this guy dropped dead. Literally. He's a guy in his 60s, and he just clutched his chest and fell to his knees and dropped to his side. And you never know what killed him, because they don't tell you anything, and just, they take him off, and one guard will say, yeah, he didn't make it, but they usually don't tell you much of anything else. But he's laying on the ground and he's gasping his last breath. And there's a guy putting his hand here, and he's like, man, there's no pulse. And, guys are talking, should we be doing CPR and this and that? And now the alarms are going off and cops are running or whatever. And this guy said, you sure he's dead? And he's like, yeah, man, I'm telling you, the dude's dead. And he goes, what size are those shoes? And it was just, and the laughter, as everybody just started to laugh. And I thought, this is the world that I'm living in. This is where I put myself. But inside of all of that kind of, that hate is a guy like Q that he should not be in prison. I mean, whatever he did, you know what I mean? Whatever he did, he's not that person. And the idea is that they're supposed to be rehabilitating people. This cat's rehabilitated. He's had the same job for 30 years, right? For 30 years, he's been going to the same job every single day and has never gotten fired in a prison. You know what I mean? Like where you can get fired for anything. He's never had a write-up, right? Since getting busted, he's never been written up for anything, like not having a bed made. The man's never had a write-up. And he's just one of the best human beings I've ever met.
Model prisoner, just following.
He's a model human,
right.
He really is. And I just think the world would be a better place if this cat was out. And one of the best natural resources that we have in this world are men and women, right? That's our best natural resource. And they're in there right now, languishing and dying. And, when I talk about the statistics, this is one I don't talk about. I say we're losing 300 people a day. Well, how many people are going to prison every day, right? For drugs. The majority of prison, they say 80% of people in there are in there for drugs. I understand if you rape or somebody or you kill somebody or, or what I did, you rob banks, you should be in prison. I don't think that what that was done to me was unjust, not for a second, and I was a rarity. Most guys in prison don't think they ought to be there. I knew I should be there. I knew that what I did landed me there, but, the number of people that are going in there and their only sin is that they got a drug problem. They bust these people and they say, it was a big time drug bust. We got the guy with a kilo of heroin. I used to buy heroin by the kilo and I bought it to do it. I wasn't a drug dealer. It was just a lot cheaper. I could get it for $15 a gram instead of spending 50. It was just about,
that's amazing.
Getting high.
That's amazing stuff, man, because, to me, it's amazing how much a prisoner's life kind of mirrors what addicts go through a little bit, just not in a confined area. I mean, you're out living in the world, but you're still living the same sort of thing, There
is no question. I watched a guy. I was coming in from getting an X-ray. All right. So I got sent to the street. So I was coming through what's called R&D, right, which is receiving and departure. So if you're just coming to prison or you're leaving, you're going through that room, and that's the only reason you'd be there. So as I'm coming back in, there's a guy in there, and he's literally arguing with these people because he doesn't want to leave. They're kicking this guy out of prison. And there's a cop in there saying to him, if I ever see you on the street, I'm going to kick your, and he's just, because they're so angry that they can't get this guy to walk out the door. And I'm looking at him going, are you kidding? Like, he was so afraid of freedom that he would rather be in there.
Isn't
and
it
he's like, you don't understand, I don't want to leave.
Anybody that's seen that movie, The Shawshank Redemption,
Great film.
And that kind of what happened there on the end with the old guy?
Yeah, absolutely. And that they call it institutionalization. And you got to understand that this happens. If you do, like, I was in there a little over 7 years is really what it boiled down to, is about a 7-year sentence for the last one. And, for 7 years, somebody cooks for you, right? Somebody does your laundry. When you go shopping, you hand somebody a list and they fill a bag and hand it to you. You don't do anything. There's no responsibility at all. And, for a lot of people, like I had a unicorn job, but for a lot of those guys, they just lay in bed and do nothing. And then all of a sudden it's, all right, now you're going out in the world, go get a job, go do this, go do that, pay taxes, get a card, get a driver's license. And for some people, it's just like, I used to walk around with 25 flat books of stamps in my pocket. That was money, right? That's your currency. You spend stamps because you can't counterfeit them, right? You don't have money in there. So I remember when I got to the gate to leave and the guy counted out the money that was in my account and handed it to me, and I picked it up. I hadn't touched money in 7 years. It was bizarre to hold it in my hand. You know what I mean? Like, and then I got out and I remember the first thing that was just the color. Like the world you've been in for 7 years is monochromatic. Every single thing you look at is khaki, right? Everybody wears khakis. They paint the walls the same damn color. So I got out and it was like, or, the women who work in prison are not allowed to wear perfume or anything. There's no scent. So what you smell is just, sweat and fear. For 7 to 10 years of your life, you just smell guy sweat and fear. And then, like, I remember walking into the airport and, the first 6 women you walk by are wearing perfume. And it's like, just sensory overload, the colors and everything else. Just being in a car after 7 years of not being in a vehicle, the guy was driving away in the van and I went and I put my hand on the dash. He goes, yeah, tell me if you're going to throw up and I'll pull over. And I said, no, I think I'll be all right. He's like, I'm not going to rag on you. He said, about half of the people do. Because, the average human being from the time that they're 2, they're not going to go 2 months without being in a car. You go 7 years without being in an automobile and all of a sudden things are flying by you.
Motion
like,
sickness.
Crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just everything.
Yeah.
The world,
I would think that it's, that is so like on point that when you're talking about that kind of a thing, the overload that you have to experience would almost be like a newborn baby.
It's insane.
When you just come out and you're seeing things, just because you're in there doesn't mean the world stopped. And I
correct.
Think, I would imagine you kind of felt, well, we've had conversations about how you felt like you were a little bit behind on technology and stuff like that.
Wildly behind.
Yeah. So those are the kinds of fears and stuff that people don't even know they're going to have until they walk out the door. Because they just don't realize how much the world has progressed, or like you said, sensory overload is just, it's a real thing, guys. I mean,
it is real thing. And I was out less than 24 hours and I had a smartphone. Now, I'm not a guy that went to prison before phones, right? When I went to prison, I had a Note 4, like a Note, the Samsung Note 4. But when I got out, they were on Note 11, right? Or Note 12, and all of these different things that people were doing. And I got to the airport and this woman looked at me. I swear to you, I hadn't even got inside yet. And she was at a smoking area and I caught a sniff of the tobacco, which you're not allowed to smoke in prison or anything else. And it's like, now I can do whatever I want. I walk in, there's bars, there's everything. And I'm going, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Like, I'm trying to keep it together. And this woman looked at me and swear to you, said to me, when did you get out? And I just thought, my God, that's what I look like. And I said, is it that obvious? She goes, well, I work here. And she goes, and everybody that leaves Sheridan comes through the airport. She's like, and you all carry those gray bags. She's like, and you all got that deer in the headlight look. And I walked inside and threw that damn bag in the trash. I swear to you, clothes and all, said, screw this. You know what I mean? That's the last thing in the world I want to look like. She said, do you want to call your family and tell them you're out? I said, that would be great. And she handed me a smartphone and I went, can you dial? And I gave her the number because, I mean, honestly, things changed to the point where, all of that was just so overwhelming. And the, getting to the halfway house and, the horror of going through the halfway house was worse than prison. I swear to God it was. It was prison with a cell phone, but I'm looking out a window, right? And the entire world is right there. And I can't walk out that door. We were there during the time of this pandemic and we were on lockdown. So I could order pizza, right? But, to Jack's credit, I got there and I called him and told him where I was. And, he said to me, well, you should just get yourself some food and this and that. I said, I left her like $100. I said, the cab ride was 50 something. And I said, I'm getting it together. I said, a couple of things I need or this or that. And I was upstairs and they called up to the room and the woman was like, hey, you got a delivery at the door. And I was like, I'm like, no, you called the wrong room. And she's like, no, it's your room. It's your name. So I come down and there's Jack at the door looking at me like he had never seen me before in my entire life. You know what I mean? He's like, Tommy? I'm like, yeah. He's like, here, man. And he handed me a bucket of chicken. And when I went in, there was a different phone charger in there that I talked about needing. And there was a stack of cash at the bottom and all of these things underneath all the chicken. And to this day, I actually have them in my phone. It doesn't say Jack. It says DoorDash. Because for the year that I was at the halfway house, DoorDash, anytime I needed anything, he would he would run it over to me.
And he knew
He was
you needed some of that stuff and trying to help you out.
just a good friend. Yeah, he's Jack's
for real.
just been really been a great guy. But I think the message I'd like to get across most is that literally from the time that I stepped through that door and entered that halfway house and I got my phone, this was it. I swear to you. I mean, I went and I saw, Johnny's channel for the first time, and I started to work with him on Chase the Heat, and all I could think about was this. And I remember the day that on Chase the Heat, there was somebody, I was doing Tommy's Picks. And for those of you who are in the Pepper community, you know what Tommy's Picks was. But, every day I was on doing something. And one day a guy was cracking jokes about drugs, and it was just a constant thing. And it just kept going and going and going. And I finally wrote a Tommy's Picks and just said, you know what? The drug thing isn't funny to me, man. I'm like, I'm not trying to be a stick in the mud or anything else, but I'm a recovering heroin addict. And I just sort of dropped it on everybody. And, I said to my brother, if you don't want to read this, you don't have to. He's like, oh, no, hell no. Or I remember, and some of the people who have been following me forever will remember the day that, I had about 8,000 or 9,000 followers on Instagram. And I did a Instagram post that just said, my name is Tommy Scoville. I'm a convicted bank robber. And there was, nobody in the world that knew this. And I just sort of dropped it. And there are some people who are still on the boat now that just, stepped up to the plate and just were so kind to me and just said, you know what, coming out and doing what you just did and being honest about it and this and that is going to help people. And that was the moment that I thought this is going to work. You know what I mean? If the people that already knew me were willing to accept me for who I am and were willing to allow, me to express that and to talk about, my life, then the Lifeboat could be a reality. And if you've ever watched the first couple of Lifeboat episodes back when it was the Tommy Scoville Show, I came on and I said, I'm Tommy Scoville. Welcome to the Tommy Scoville Show. I can't stand the name of the show. That day, I didn't want it to be about me, but I didn't know what the hell I was going to call it, right? The Sobriety Hour, with Tommy. And there was no concept of all of the things. And I had notebooks this thick that I had written out, things I wanted to tell people and how I wanted to get this across. And all the stuff you and I talked about for the first 9 or 10 hours that we talked was all about that. But the name, I never once thought about it. And the funny thing is, the guy that named the Lifeboat is not a huge fan of mine anymore. He doesn't like me a whole lot. But I still, if you happen to be trolling, I love you. It was a great name for the boat. It really was, and I hope you're doing well in life. But that was I think that was a pivotal moment. At that point, Mark and I were already partners, which that was a big load off my mind too. I never wanted a partner. Didn't want to have anything to do with a partner or anything like that. People had talked to me about it in the beginning. There was some other people who approached me and wanted to do it with me. And, some people that had some skills in certain areas. And, if you're one of them listening, it had nothing to do with you personally. I just never saw this as somebody that I didn't want to do this with somebody. I didn't. I thought it was a horrendous idea. And then, the first time you and I talked on the phone, it was when we started bantering people, it was like I was listening to myself. It really was. We were so on the same page that, honestly, on both ends, right? Your people were yelling, get off the phone. My people were yelling, are you still on the phone? And it just went on for, honestly, I don't know how long. It was probably at least 3 hours.
Yeah, but it was an instantaneous connection. There was no question.
And it was all business. We didn't get on the phone and so tell me a little bit about your childhood. What part of the country? It was just Lifeboat. We just talked about our thoughts on addiction and our thoughts on recovery and our thoughts on medical assisted treatment and the stigmatism that's associated with this and how addicts are picked on and all of these things. And it was just, and by the end of it.
And I would add this too, when I met you, I was looking for something like this. I actually had a couple people approach me in my actual physical group here where I live, wanted to start something like what we're doing. And after talking to them, I just couldn't because they were not what I wanted. You know what I mean? It just wasn't on my same road,
Yeah.
And you checked all the boxes immediately. I mean, and it's seldom that you find people that are really in line with your thinking, and that's kind of why I think it works here. I really do, because we're able to, hey, this and that, I didn't really see that part of it now. We can talk to each other that way. Don't get me wrong. There's times we disagree, guys. I mean, it's just going to happen. Family disagrees, and that's, again, I call Tommy my brother. Seriously, that's how I feel about it. It's not even a question about a friendship.
I think the other thing is, I get picked on quite a bit for what is Vegemite, like some new synthetic stuff. That's a funny comment. No, Vegemite is this awful spread that people in Australia are silly enough to eat. So the other thing is, there was on both of our parts, I get picked on all of the time for having a really huge ego. And I think the reason that I do is because, when you spend 7 hours a week talking, people just got to assume you love yourself. Like you know what I mean? It's a tough thing to just go live for 7 hours a week. You got to be an egomaniac to do that. And truthfully, people, it's really not what it's about. I can see why people would say it. I would probably say it about me if I were just watching me, but it's never really been about ego. And I think that's why the other reason that, we sort of gelled on this, because believe it or not, people, neither of us really give a crap about anything but the message here. There have been people who have asked me, if I intend to do this forever. And I've always said, if somebody came along that's better at it than me, that I really thought could deliver the message, and, two guys popped up and said, boy, we'd love to take this over, and they were better than the two of us, I think we'd bow out in a heartbeat.
Like, no question. I mean,
no question. Like, I just want this to reach people.
Yeah, when I first met you, man, I mean, it was like, I didn't want to be the one talking, but I knew how to do the technical stuff on the end of it. That's kind of what I wanted. I wanted to be productive on that back end and let you do what you do, and I do think that I'm sorry, guys, there's something spiritual there. That ain't something that just, small world type of stuff. No way. I mean, that's put together for a reason, my opinion.
No, there's really something to that. The fact that we ran into each other the way we did. And again, really, people, to hammer the lifeboat part of this home, when we talked on the phone, I don't think either of us had any of this in mind. And how I know that that's the truth? I remember calling Mark and saying to him, hey man, I want you to do this with me. And Mark's response was, yeah, no, I told you, that I'd help you. I'm all over helping you. And I'm like, no, man, like, I want you to do it with me. I want you to come on, and we're going to do this thing together. And he was like, no, I'll help you with it. You know what I mean? I'll do everything. And to be really honest, you would have been doing the exact same thing, right? Like, you were already doing it, but there was really something to be said. Again, when you're doing this, and you're doing it a lot, there was a time we were doing 14 hours a week, or 20 sometimes hours a week. And I can do that because I'm passionate enough about this that's not really a big deal. But when you start having a meltdown, and they happen, and you start feeling like the world is just more than you can handle at a moment, you don't need someone that's helping with your show. You need a partner. You know what I mean? And that it's just really worked. And you know what? I know we ran a little bit over, but I think if I can get about 5 more minutes, I won't have to do a phase 3, because the end of this story for me, and base camp, it's not the end of the story, it's the start of the story. But the end of this chapter that I'm talking about is really, when it went from Mark and I talking every day about this to Mark coming on board and us working together and as partners, I remember saying to him, what I really want to happen. I'm sorry. You emailed me. You all need to hear my story. I'd love to, Rick. If you emailed me, I don't think I got it. Send it again, unless he sent it to you. I don't think I got that, Rick. But if not, just send it to me again, because I don't remember getting anything from you. But if I didn't respond back, it's probably because I didn't get it. But I will check again, I promise you. So I said to Mark, what I'm really hoping for is that within 12 months, 18 months, I want this to become like a group, and I want this to become a family, and I just want this to be a support network more than it's an education thing or anything like that. I mean, I can go on and talk, but I want it to just be everybody coming together and leaning on one another and helping one another. And I'm like, and I think that if we can keep this thing going for a year and a half, that everyone will kind of catch on to that. Well, now I got it. I just saw that email pop in. I said, I think that'll happen. And Mark was like, oh, it's going to happen a whole lot faster than that. But I think the speed at which it happened blew both of us away. Obviously, him less than me. But people, I'll be honest, it took about a week. In the beginning, some of you just got it from day one, even before it was the lifeboat. But when we started to go live, like that first live show, when we went off the air and the two of us were just sitting and talking, we were like, holy crap. You know what I mean? Like this is exactly what we were talking about. And I've spent 2 days talking about myself. And it's because I want everybody here. If you just show up, you might just think that I'm a guy that had a drug problem. I had an epic drug problem. And I let that take me to places that most people don't end up. Thank God, right? Most people are able to apply the brakes before then. I was that hopeless. And the reason I think it's important that I come out here and I do this every once in a while is so that the people that just catch this realize that if I can get up off the deck, anybody can. For real. Because I sank to lows that were just, I mean, beyond the pale. When we do the prison show and I really get into some of that, I'll be honest with you, that show will come with a warning, because it's just, some of it is so awful that it's not even fun to listen to. But the moral of this story is all of you. It really is. The base camp part of this is that I may have spent the last 2 days talking about me, but this channel isn't about me. It really isn't. The channel is about the fact that we are all in the same boat, and I don't care if it's porn or gambling or sugar or diet drinks or alcohol or coke or heroin or anything else, meth, pills, it doesn't matter. If the reward center of your brain is making you feel good for doing things that are stupid, then you're in the same boat. And, one of the things the only thing great about this addiction is that it levels the playing field instantly, right?
Yes.
If Elon Musk becomes an opiate addict tomorrow, then you can find a guy sleeping underneath a dumpster, and he and the richest man on the planet will be in the same boat instantly. It doesn't care if you're rich, poor, white, black, yellow, purple, right? All of us are fighting this fight together. And the beautiful thing about this boat is that it's just about bringing people together. I've said this before, and I'm not kidding. When you throw the praise out to the both of us, the truth of the matter is we could probably come on here and go, and you guys could just do what you do, because it just has brought together the right group of people. And it's really less about what we do and what we say, and it's more about the fact that we were lucky enough to get this thing running so that everybody comes together. And
I think it falls into the a little bit of the integrity and the little bit of the honesty about what we're doing and how transparent we are and what our actual goals are. And that, yes, we want the views. Yes, we want the subscribers, only for the reason that it shows that we're reaching people. That's it. It's not about anything other than that. If we just walked away today, like you said, we'd come on here like the Three Stooges or Two Stooges, whatever, and you guys would still have a good conversation in the chat. It would legitimately be that way, because it is a family, and it really is that way, and everybody's accepted immediately. There's never no judgment going on ever. I can't even look back and think. And if there ever was, I'm sure somebody like, hey man, don't be saying, what I mean? We call ourselves on that stuff. Yep. It's not anything other than that, and I don't know. We say it's all about the crew, and it is. and we can't say it enough because that's really truly what it is. And we hope that the views and the subscribers will bring on more crew people, because guess what? That's just more help for all of us.
That's the key right there. I mean, the reason we ask you guys to leave comments, the reason we ask everybody to, to smash the like button every once in a while. I mean, we don't bring it up much, but all of you do, because everybody sort of knows that the more we push this out, when we wanted to get monetized, people, the reason we wanted to get monetized is because if you're not, they don't really push you out very far. The more that they can make money on you, the more you're making money, they push you out. But if this was about making money, what Mark and I would do is we would shoot this on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we would just put it up as an instant premiere. And you guys could still go in the comment section and do what you do, and we would get paid on it. I don't know if you know much about YouTube, but live feeds, none of these views count toward getting paid. That's not how it works on a live. That has to be watched after it goes live. And you know what? If this channel never makes $1, but it saves one person, then we still got 5 more to save, right? The goal was 6, right? And then we're going to try to save 6 more. The one thing that I will tell you that I do feel proud about is that I don't care how many YouTube channels you watch or how long you watch it, not very many end with a cat in a basket. You know what I mean? Look at that.
Love the squirrel, baby. Love the squirrel.
Night after night, the cabin cat is here for the end. Thanks for sticking around 10 minutes late, people. I really appreciate it. And 2 things real quickly before we wrap this up. Make no mistake, we listen to you people. We really do. Time and time again. If you guys have a suggestion and the suggestion seems to work or it makes sense, or if it doesn't make sense to us, but you guys continue to ask for it, we'll usually do it anyway, because it really is your boat and we just get cool seats on this boat. There was a lot of people that have reached out to me since yesterday, and I saw it in the comments section and other places. People said, we would like to see your bobbleheaded partner. When I say, now I'm going to turn this over to my bobbleheaded partner, they would like to see Mark at the end. So when he comes on, as opposed to just having this disembodied voice out there talking, they would like it to go kind of like a split screen or something, the way we have it set up now. We heard you, and we're going to do it. So from this point forward, you will be seeing my bobbleheaded partner as opposed to just hearing him. So we do listen to you. We're glad you like that. You know, it's funny too, because we talked about why we never did that, and neither of us could actually figure out ever talking about it or thinking about it.
Yeah, we never. I don't think either one of us really even gave it a second thought. I mean, it's just we were. I guess in that part of the show, we're just kind of wrapped up into really trying to just concentrate on the show. I think it's probably where it came from, but yeah, it's a great suggestion. I think. I would. We already talked about it, so yeah, go ahead.
And Miss V, feel free to call Squirrel your own, especially say anytime after 11 o'clock at night. A lot of fun then. People, one other thing. You know what? From time to time, people send me things. I appreciate it. I really do, each and every time. And recently, I've gotten some cool stuff. I got 3 books from Stacey Michaels that were just, I would say 2 were excellent, and 1 is really bizarre, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm reading it for the 2nd time. Bizarre book. But great stuff, and I really appreciate that anytime it happens. Today, I got a gift. You people know that I am a horophile. I'm a watch freak, right? All things having anything to do with watches. People, this, if you can see this, let me see where the camera is. Okay, so if you can see that, that is a ship's wheel with a watch in the middle of it. And this was purchased and sent to me by a loving and caring member of the boat who did this while I was kind of suffering through while we were all suffering through the loss of Cindy Lamb, and sent it sort of as a cheer up gift. And I won't say who it is, but you can think of her as Linda. How would that be? So Linda, really appreciate it. You're the best, and I can't begin to tell you how cool it is to have a watch that is in the wheel of a boat. How cool is that? Seriously, it's my favorite things all coming together. But people, thank you for making this boat what it is. Thank you for coming here every single night. You could be watching the Kardashians and pounding through a bag of double stuffed Oreos and not having to listen to me or my bobbleheaded partner. The fact that you come here night after night, the fact that you leave comments, the fact that you support one another, we're lucky. We really are. We know we're lucky. And I promise you, we're never going to forget that. We're never going to lose sight of that. And to those of you who have been here from the very beginning, God bless you for real, because you really took this and shaped it into what it is. And if I mentioned a name, I would leave one out, right? And I'm not going to do that, but you guys know who you are. And for the people that just got here, I'm going to be saying the same thing about you about a year from now, right? So I want to thank all of you. There's literally no one on this boat that we don't love. That's the truth. So, and Mark, you know what? I'm glad that you're here day after day. I don't know that the boat would still be going strong if I was doing this alone.
You know, I thank God for everybody here too, and that's what I try to say. And like I said, for you, Tommy, I mean, it just, you know, when all this went down, like I said, and I'll end it here with my part of it. That, you know, I didn't just get a YouTube partner; I got a brother out of it. So when this, you know, eventually this will all come to an end sometime. I mean, it will. It has to. Hopefully it's not for 20, 30 years, you know, if we can keep doing it that long. But even after that, Tommy's still going to be my brother, and you guys are still going to be my family. So
no question.
Just know that.
You know what? People say family all the time on YouTube. I know it sounds like a cliche, but the things that we've endured in the 6 months that we've been doing this, if we're not a family, then I got to go back and look up the definition again, because apparently I don't know what it is. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. Tomorrow at the same time in the same place, there'll be a cat in a basket. There'll be my bobbleheaded partner, and I will be sitting here with my hat on. We love you. Truthfully, between now and then, why don't you reach out there and try to save somebody? You know, I'm the captain on the other side of the glass.
Mark Wages.
Good night, everybody. We love you.